Everybody, another Wednesday, another live stream. All right, so if you're watching this on replay, what I usually say off the bat is go ahead and jump ahead 2 or 5 minutes and get into the interview. Usually the first couple minutes is just getting our feet wet and making sure all the tech works. So Angel, thank you for joining. Cindy Dobrian, thank you for joining. We'll get Hilary in here in a second. Let's see if we can get her. There she is. What's up, Hilary? I just sent you an invite. I think you can actually request to join too. There she is. All right, cool.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hold on. So usually what I say is like the first 2 to 5 minutes is me dropping the phone, having technical issues. So anyway, I feel like we just did this. All right. Let's give it a minute for everyone to get in here. Just if you see anyone posting and you want to comment or read off their comments and answer their questions, feel free. Like Cindy says, Hilary rules, I agree.
My friends are good.
To a good start. Sandonut, thank you for joining. All right. Let's give me a second here and we'll get started. So I'll read a little something off the top to you and then we can get into things.
Awesome.
All right. Usually I don't knock over my tripod right at the start. So
That sounds like a good sign.
Oh, there's only up from here. All right, let's see here. I forgot to mention, my eyes are really bad, so if I totally butcher your handle, apologies in advance. What is that? Anna SPT? I can't read that. Go ahead. She says Hilary. Cool. Thank you for joining.
Oh my God. I can't believe all these people are joining.
Yeah, so they've seen you gone live. So if you have questions for Hilary, we remind you, just drop them down in the comments. Or if you just have comments.
Don't tempt them. Don't tempt them. It's gonna get hairy.
All right. All right, so let's just start something off the top and we'll get into this. Hello and welcome to the Bellwether Ritual live stream where we discuss music, the local Lehigh Valley PA scene and beyond, bands, social media, and more. Today is Wednesday, October 4th already. My name is Mike and I'm the vocalist guitarist of Bellwether Ritual. Hope you all had a good week. Just a heads up and some housekeeping. We have a show, a Halloween show, more importantly, October 28th in Bethlehem, PA at the Flying V Poutineery. So please come out and check that out. I believe the show will probably start around 6 or 7 and go to about 10. So nice and early. And yeah, let's get into it. Tonight, our guest is none other than Bellwether Ritual's own Hilary Brown. Hilary abandoned her family's hopes of a real job to pursue her life passion of music and musical gear. That evolved into evolved into a 15-year career as a marketing executive and brand strategist for some brands you may have heard of, including Martin, Fender, Jackson, and Gretsch. We'll talk about all that and more. Hilary, welcome to the live stream. How are you doing tonight?
Hanging out. Good to see you. Happy to be here.
Cool. Brian Wagner, thank you for joining. He took some great pictures of us a few weeks ago at the gig we did with Chaos Guitars, who is also here. So thank you for jumping in, Dave. Listen, I have listened to so many pickups this week. I think I'm finally narrowing it down. I think I'm just going to be a plain Jane. I have a couple more questions for you. I'll probably hit you up after this soon. Time being, LV, thank you for joining. Josh Burke, thank you for joining. And JSWIS2, thank you for joining. I'm going to butcher all your names. Sorry in advance. If you know them, shout them out. Chaos Guitar says, it's good. Yeah, I've had enough of listening to pickups all week.
My family's on here now. How embarrassing is that?
Awesome.
Get
cool.
ready.
Well, spill all the goods. Yeah, throw them in the comments below.
I'm sure
and you have any
they'll put some embarrassing memories in the comments, I'm sure.
Yes.
There's a lot of them.
We've seen the pictures.
You have seen the
all right,
pictures.
I have a few too, don't worry. All right, anything you want to plug right off the top?
No, just happy to be here. I mean, I recently moved to the area to work for Martin Guitars, so if you haven't picked up a Martin guitar, I have to give a shameless plug for my
Shout out.
place of employment.
Hmm.
So hit me up if you're looking for a new acoustic. But beyond that, come and see us play.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, so actually, right on top of that, usually one of the questions I ask right off the bat, I already know this, but for our viewers, are you from the area? And if not, where did you come from, or how'd you get here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a loaded question because I've lived sort of everywhere for the sake of the industry. I was born and raised in Jupiter, Florida, so by and large a surfer girl at heart. I moved to Chicago for undergrad, and you could say I spent most of my adult life in Chicago. That's really where I got my feet wet in the live music scene, where I started playing the bass. I play a ton of instruments, but I sort of found my calling with the bass. Playing on the Chicago indie scene. And then beyond that, I bounced around a lot from New York to LA. Sometimes people ask where home is, and I kind of don't know at this point because I've just kind of lived everywhere pursuing jobs in the guitar industry, and it landed me here. I've been at Martin Guitar for about a year and a half, and ironically, it's kind of like when you work at a restaurant, you don't really eat the food, and I was kind of needing to scratch the itch to play music because the longer I've been in this industry, the less I play,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
that's I guess how you and I got connected.
yeah, yeah. Very cool. Was there a thing like was there a person in your life or a song or something that initially got you into music?
Yeah, for sure. I would be remiss if I didn't say my dad.
All
I
right, shout
grew
out.
up I grew up kind of bare bones, and he was a musician. My whole family is musicians. My brother is a
Oh wow.
musician. Lives down in New Orleans now, and so you could say I came from a musical family. But he kind of sort of forced a lot of his musical tastes on us, and I think that that really kind of evolved into a good thing. I was raised on the Beatles and a lot of Motown, and that just kind of transitioned into a love of other genres. But I had a thorough education in music growing up, and a thorough education on again quite a few instruments. So I hated practicing, but I think inevitably it kind of just evolved into what I turned into a career. So
Yeah, sounds like you did well. Just want to shout out why are you and Keegan and Guitar Dork. Thank you all for joining. If I butcher names, apologies. Feel free to shout out anyone as you see them come in. Comments for Hilary down in the comments section below, or questions, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. All right, so I guess my next question would be, what you say you play a lot of instruments. What made you kind of find bass as home? Because I also did start off as a bass player. Yeah.
well, so I actually started as a piano
Oh,
player.
okay.
Again, yeah, I started on piano lessons. Well, basically self-taught. I took one lesson and I was just like, this is not for me,
Hmm.
and kind of went rogue at that point. After that, played a lot of guitar. I played in school band and stuff like that, and was kind of just trying to find my footing in Chicago. I claimed to be a guitarist, and so I was perusing around on Craigslist. Somebody was asking for a bass player, and I basically lied and said that I played the bass. I didn't do that with you, just for what it's worth. I think we've
Yeah, that was
established
obvious.
that.
Yeah.
But I was like, and if hopefully none of these people are watching this right now, but I had very minimal experience playing the bass and just kind of picked up a few songs for the audition, and uh, the rest was history. And I'd say a lot of my musical influences are predominantly bass players as well. Like I said, I love Motown, love
Hmm.
a lot of metal bass players, and I think kind of that duality really speaks to my own style. So that's kind of how it evolved, and I became just obsessed with the instrument.
Yeah, I don't think they're as far off as people think either. Like, obviously, it's a musical family and everything's connected, but yeah, people will be surprised how much crossover there really is.
Yeah, well, and then
All right.
from a personality standpoint, I just think bass players are, you know, a breed of their own, and so I think I think I kind of
A
fit
li-
right into that weird, like oddball, just eccentric group.
yeah, I was gonna say elaborate on that a little bit, please.
Well, I'll leave that for you to find out as soon as once we play a few more shows together.
Yeah, yeah, I think I have a good idea. And yeah, started off as a bass player, like I said too. I was drawn to it. What was it? Maybe like an old school like Metallica song or something that I thought was bass, it actually wasn't. And then I was like, oh, I think that's what I'll do. I just love the low end kind of thing. I eventually went down to Philly and then ended up wanting to do more songwriting, so I switched to guitar. But yeah, I still love the bass.
Yeah,
Jay
definitely.
Stern, 2222, thank you for joining.
Hey, Jace.
And yeah, I can't even take a stab at that one. So, oh, Leonard, thank you for joining. I'm sorry, I need glasses, so I'm not gonna be
I'm
able to read all your
actually kind of
handles.
enjoying you mispronounce them, so I'm
Just
just taking
butchering
note of
everyone,
it.
all your
Yeah,
friends' names. Yeah,
yeah.
sorry in advance. All right. So I guess what talk about Chicago a little bit to you and like the difference. There's got to be a huge one. Well, I don't know actually. Talk about the difference between the Chicago scene and the Lehigh Valley
Yeah,
scene.
definitely. Well, I was definitely spoiled living in Chicago because you just get a broad swath of
Yeah.
everything, right? There's jazz, it's the birthplace of house. There's hip hop, of course, there's a really rad punk scene. You name it, they have it. And the cool thing is that all of those, you get your little pockets of, different scenes, but a lot of it really intersects. And so you just see this really collective appreciation for all things music, blues. It's all kind of there and it's all kind of integrated. I think one thing that's pretty similar is there's this DIY mentality. You get your big acts, but it's these. We're all kind of, at certain points. We're all kind of just like struggling to get a multidisciplinary gallery space to work, and like barely had any instruments. There's no sound. Um, and I think it's just kind of, we all kind of came together as a unified force for the sake of the music, no matter what genre. And so there's just that really great eclectic art scene there, and just again appreciation for kind of all genres. And it's really, I kind of felt like an old fart for what it's worth. It's a really young scene. I think it's a really great opportunity. There's a lot of young bands playing there, like lots of up and comers. A lot of people get their start there. But the rad thing about it, I think, is just there's so many established venues there. Even like the Dives, there's so much history and
Yeah.
backstory. And you sit in these green rooms and think about all the amazing and maybe not so amazing things that went down in these. And so you just get this mix of like emerging talent and then this storied history like across all these genres. But I feel like the cool thing here is that you just really have this a similar kind of tight knit family. I kind of feel like the stranger, like on the out, coming in from the outside. Definitely have some work to do, but everybody kind of knows each other, is connected, is really passionate about the music, like wants to make it happen. I was really blown away from my first show with you guys, just about, you know, how, again, much of a unified force it was to like put that on, and how passionate everybody was about like getting the show on in live music. So that was sweet to see.
Yeah. And you did a great job. I think you had maybe 2 weeks. I think you beat Brenton, our drummer's record of 3 weeks to get ready for a show and just jump on stage. So that was awesome too. Thank you for
Yeah.
your kind words, obviously. And we had a really great group of bands that night too. It was like no egos. We helped each other load things on and off the stage, make sure we got things done in time. So yeah, that was just great stuff. I just wanted to quickly touch on like I said, I spent 7 or so years in Philadelphia, and there's a big R&B scene down there, and like it rubs off, like it comes out in your playing. Still to this day, I still feel like I have those kind of sensibilities that still come through. Do you feel the same way with the like Motown and
Oh
Chicago
yeah.
scene?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's kind of this duality. My number one bass influence is probably James Jamerson. I love Motown.
Nice. Yeah.
I love jazz basses. I have several. I'm like have a little bit of gear acquisition syndrome. I'm reading Anna's comments. But I think like the cool thing about it is just the cool thing about R&B really is that opportunity to it's really just a challenge to kind of fill the space. There's so much going on, and the counterpoint, and being able to kind
Hmm.
of counteract melody with melody. You know, that's really, I can't think, kind of the driving force, but also, you know, and you can kind of say the same thing for the style of music that we play. There's like a rootedness to it where, you know, there's the counterpoint side, but then there's also this like driving kind of groove. And so being able to do both, I think is, you know, kind of what I strive for, you know, doing the more technical piece. I really love harmonies and like I said, counterpoint, but at the end, sometimes all you need is simplicity. I think that's kind of why we jived, but
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
we have two rules in the band, not rules, but two kind of like things we try to always say is know your role and keep it simple. Like it's harder than it sounds. So yeah, and we did connect on that right away, which is great. And that was one of the things that really helped make that decision easy. All right, so let's see here. Guitar Dork asks, "Hi, what is the badass bass you played at the Bellwether show? Some sort of explorer shape.
Oh
Effing
yeah.
cool." I
So
agree.
yeah, so that's a Sandberg 48, definitely Explorer inspired. It's a triple humbucker bass, super flat neck. It's great for you know, great for doing any sort of runs on like on the fingerboard. I can't remember what the radius is, but it's hell flat. And I just remember picking it up. Well, actually, I remember when I was working in a music store, my friend Mark, who now works for Sandberg, had this really amazing, it was almost like a Lake Placid blue, maybe a green version of that bass. And I was just hypnotized by it. It just had such a powerful sound, but it has so much versatility too, just the way you can dial stuff in. So it's like an Explorer on steroids, you know, basically. And yeah, I just, you know, when I was auditioning for this band, I was like basically had to pull it out of retirement because I dropped it, and it needed some massive amounts of repair. And but it's definitely a ride or die when I play metal. So
No doubt, it is definitely badass. I've just recently fallen in love with like the Firebird RD Explorer stuff and bought a guitar similar. But yeah, when I you brought the Mustang the first time and we're like,
uh,
no, like I got the Sandberg at
I know
home and I
I
was like,
just
all right,
needed to like
no, it's cool.
I needed to reattrie. I was like, who's this goon coming in with a Mustang bass? I was like, well,
No, I like those too, but
it did the job. It did the job.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. I think people have really polarizing views on Explorer body styles. Like you either love them or hate them. They're
yeah,
sometimes. I mean, I guess one of the disadvantages, it's not the most contoured, so you're kind of just like there's some positioning you need to do when you're playing.
yeah.
It's not the most comfortable, but it looks cool, right? It sounds cool.
For sure, both. And then I've been banging mine into every wall or doorway since I've gotten it
But
too. It's huge, but yeah, I love it.
maybe you just have a small doorway.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Guitar Girl 97, thank you for joining. Anna says, gotta run to practice. Love you, Queen. Thank you for jumping in, Anna. And thank you for blessing us with rock. We appreciate that. Hollow Hal Band, thank you for joining. We'll be playing with them October 28th at the Flying V Poutineery. So we're looking forward to that as well. And Anna says, I will leave you with one question. Please let me know what the answer was later.
I don't know
First
how somehow
base
I
and
walked out of this with homework, but like I have to respond to somebody later.
that's a good sign. First base and first amp. And what was how was the legend made? Hmm.
Well, at the time when I lied to get into that band, I had absolutely no money at the time. I think I was working at Guitar Center as like a accessory counter
Mm-hmm.
associate, making like not that much money. So, um, I, you know, I just had to find something. So, again, I feel like I've become more and more discerning about my gear, but it had to have been like an entry level Ibanez sound gear, like 412, like uh, just I don't know, like value based that like came in a pack, and I'm pretty sure that I had like I don't know, like a line 6 combo, like modeling amp, and all of that, of course, has since evolved. But as long as it makes sound, I think sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine was a PV Fury, which I actually have in the closet. It only has
Everybody's
three
got
strings on it right now.
everybody's got that like PV rite of passage. I feel like somebody,
Yeah.
yeah, there's
So
always one in the closet.
yeah, we were talking about it in high school, and the one guy was like, "All right, let me give you some advice. Whatever you do, don't buy a PV." And then the first thing I did was went and bought one. I mean, it did me fine, whatever. But yeah, it was just kind of a funny little thing.
Yeah, I had in one of my bands in Chicago. I feel like it was kind of characteristic of the band, like it was kind of endearing and charming, but the lead singer had this like almost like hand wired, like homemade like PV cabinet, and it
Hmm.
would short out on stage all the time. And like we'd be at practice, I'm like, man, like I want to say this thing sounds like shit, but I
Yeah.
can't. And so now every time I think about a PV amp, I think about that amp, and I'm like, dude, you got to get another amp at this point. But it kind of just became intrinsic to the sound, this, and everybody had one, right, at one point.
I
So
certainly did. Yep. Squeaky1313, thank you for joining and thank you for the follow. We will follow you right back. Let's just hit on gear a little bit since that's where we were kind of headed. So I gotta say, I've become a little bit of a gear snob because of that fact. Like I've had plenty
my
of times where I've been on stage.
mother-in-law just joined.
Nice.
Does
Welcome.
this
Thank you for
happen
joining.
normally?
I gotta say this
I
this might be a
can't say
first.
anything bad about my husband.
We've had moms on
My
the live
handsome,
stream before.
loving husband.
Yeah, so I think for me, a couple of really bad experiences on stage with like gear filling and things have really made me, I don't want to say gear snob because I like to have good working things, but yeah, I don't know. Just talk to me about that a little bit. I know you're a big gear collector. Where did
Yeah.
that kind of start? Was it just from being around it?
Honestly, it was kind of a baptism by fire experience when, I feel like when I was working at Fender, I became just really ingratiated into that world. So, love all things Fender, right? I came back and or following that job, I started working at a vintage and high-end guitar store. And they'll just really sniff you out on your shit if you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, even working at Guitar Center, I would try to fake my way through things. And I think that just comes to everything in this industry is if you're disingenuous, people will sniff out your shit right away.
Yeah.
Um, and when I was there, I mean, just these people are truly passionate about gear. They bring in some of the world's greatest instruments. They've been played by the world's greatest artists. They know everything about gear. And having working in marketing at the time, the obligation to represent that gear accurately is so important that you kind of have to be well read and well informed about like all of the eras and all of the features. So it was almost like an obligation of my job at the time. And like I said, if I mess something up, or if especially the sound, people are just audiophiles
Yeah.
in that space. And so if we're recording something and it sounds off by even the slightest frequency, we had to re-record it. So you just become like ultimately a gear snob, and some which I'm self-professed and proud of.
Hmm.
So I think that's really where it came from, was working at Chicago Music Exchange, and just being surrounded by such amazing musicians and collectors and gear experts. And then from there, I just started, acquiring my own collection. And it's just one thing it's kind of like walking into Fenway Park. It's one thing to go to a baseball game, but then when you play the Fenway of
Hmm.
instruments, there's just this mojo that's attached to it, and you get this whoa experience. And that was the kind of thing that you get, from playing, you know, a truly remarkable instrument.
Do you have one that you can think of off the top that kind of sticks out with you and
Yeah,
stays with you?
definitely. This is probably gonna be. I'm probably gonna get fired from Martin, I guess, at this point. But I there was a collection that came in we called it the Vault. It was basically this collection of instruments from the 50s and 60s that came in. There's a lot of Fenders, quite a few Gibson 335s. I think there was the jewel of the collection was this Les Paul 1960 Burst that was worth like $300,000. It was exceptional. I think it was
Crazy.
one of. I have some stories about that too. I get in big trouble about it, but in the collection, we did when we were marketing it, we did this whole expose where we demoed them all in an actual vault, and one of them was a Gibson 1962 Dove acoustic. And I just remember picking up the instrument, and it's just like it was the perfect weight. And then strumming it, it was so I feel like only a gear snob would understand, right? It was just this ethereal feeling. It was the perfect sound. It was, I was blown away. I felt like I was gonna cry, to be honest. And I think so. I think that 62 Dove was the pinnacle of anything that I had ever picked up, electric or acoustic. And I mean, even beyond any basses that I've owned, that one just blew me away. I'm sorry to say it wasn't a Martin, but
That's okay. Yeah. Emmy Fitz, thank you for joining. Kyle Lane 10, thank you for joining. The Sky We Scrape, thank you for joining. If you have questions for Hilary, you can drop them down in the comment section. You said something there, and I wanted to touch on this a little bit too. Like when you pick up a new guitar or a different guitar or something that has a lot of history like that, a lot of times musicians will say they have songs in them. And when you pick them up, it just makes you play a certain way, or you get inspired in some kind of way, and like a song will come out. Do you find that is true, or have that happened to you in the past?
I mean, honestly, I feel like that happens with any instrument. I think history or not, I almost feel like the opposite is true, where if I'm picking that up, there's a certain element of care and caution because I'm so anal retentive about my instruments that, I'm almost afraid to play it in some cases. But I think you can say that about any instrument, is that the right one will make you compelled, to act a certain way. It's almost like being on a first date is the personality, right? Like, do you guys click?
Yeah.
And you can just tell when it clicks and when you're compelled to play. I felt that way, about some custom instruments that weren't necessarily vintage. And I felt that way about my first guitar. It was like a Seagull acoustic with a crack in it. It was very Trigger, what is that, Merle Haggard? It was just
Willie
completely
Nelson.
piece of shit. Yeah. But you can get that same sensation from any instrument. But like I said before, when there's a history involved, there's kind of this this oh shit feeling that there's definitely mojo in the instrument.
Very cool. I wanted to touch on songwriting a little bit too. I do find I agree with you completely. I didn't mean as much as the history of it, but just when you pick up a different instrument, it could be piano, bass, whatever, sometimes it just inspires you or just makes you play differently and some different things come out. As far as songwriting goes, what are you someone, so we've interviewed a lot of people on here about songwriting, and I'm always interested to hear, do you have a process for that? Do you have an idea before you have a riff? Do you start with a riff? How does that work?
It's funny because I feel like in real life, I'm very process driven, and I'm pretty structured and organized. And I feel like music is definitely the inverse of that. I'm pretty stream of consciousness. I feel like you probably are already seeing that. I feel like you might actually be pissed off about that.
No.
Because, I kind of just go with the flow, and whatever comes out, comes out. I definitely am a lyrics first person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think I kind of just like to match the music to the words. And so my background is actually in writing, as a journalist for a long time. And so I think that ultimately, the music is the complement to what, my real, I don't want to say my calling, but one of my other alternate passions is, which is words. And
Hmm.
so I think that's generally kind of what the sequence of events is. And I think the other piece of it is, as you know, I'm very into harmonies, and so
Yes,
I
I
think
can't
just
wait.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I think ultimately that's kind of the other goal. I can always piece together a few bars and things like that, but I always like to I really appreciate you know the multiple layers of you know the modalities and the motifs that you can create and the textures. And so I think it first comes to words, and then like how do you texturize the music to accompany the words.
very
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know if we had, yeah, I don't know if we had anyone with a process like that before.
No
Yeah, very
process,
cool.
like
No, no, no. I
yeah.
mean, like lyrics first. Usually, I'm the reverse, where I
Alcohol
just.
helps, but
Oh, okay,
yeah.
yeah. Well, looking forward to you putting some words down too, and definitely harmonies. And I'm definitely not pissed off. I have to say, I'm one to like get your ideas out. I need some time to listen to them because I am notorious for not getting it right away. So I need some time to like sit with it and try to understand it, and then I'll comment on that. So yeah,
Yeah,
no big deal.
and I sort of feel like at the heart of it, my taste is weirder than I let on. I think the other day when we were working through the breakdown, like I'm starting to really embrace weird time signatures and things like
Hmm.
that. So I I don't know. I feel like I've progressively been getting more creative and a little bit more relaxed about like lack of structure, which is kind of cool. I think that's where the best I think that's where the best ideas come from.
Yeah, yeah. Shane likes to throw the curveballs too. Let's see
That guy.
here.
He looks nice, but that's just from far away, I guess.
That's right. Don't let him
Yeah,
fool you.
at the
All
heart of
right.
it, he's a psychopath.
I'll make sure to
He's
clip
not
that out
on
for
here.
him.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is recorded, so never mind.
Yeah, I'll clip
Like,
it out. Don't worry. True Believer 72, thank you for joining. Mike Cross 116, thank you for joining. Daniela Fan, thank you for joining. Nat Moore, thank you for joining. And Katie Kaolis, thank you for joining. And Tammy, thank you for joining. We appreciate you all jumping in here and having a chat with us. Feel free to drop some comments in there for Hillary, and we'll keep moving along. All right, so let's see. What else do we have on here? Going back to gear a little bit, I actually want to stick on songwriting too, because I think that's a really interesting thing. But gear, I know like fuzzes are a big one for you. I starting as a bass player, like I never and not having a place where I could be loud. I always either played unplugged or with no effects at
totally,
all.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
So go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah. No.
No,
Yeah.
I feel like 90% of the time I'm never playing through an amplifier, even through even with an electrified bass. And I do play the upright, so I'm
Oh,
pretty
cool.
used to that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something we introduce later on,
Mm.
but yeah, I'm with you on that. So I think early on I didn't really play with a lot of pedals, and even now, I think the pedal obsession is a recent one. But I usually kind of ride with maybe two or three pedals tops, and only recently am I starting to explore that a little bit more.
Very cool. We have a gig, 11 Fest at the Bethlehem Area Public Library, which is a fundraiser for the studio that's in the library, and they have a stand-up bass down there. So maybe we can go rock it down
Uh,
there when we get there. Yeah.
Angel
Oh
for
yeah.
ideas over here.
Yeah. Just
The
jumping in there.
manager carrying a big
She's
stick.
known. She's known for a couple good ones there for sure. Squiggy1313 says, "How do you stay creative and musically inspired when you have to navigate the business of music daily at a brand?" Great question.
Yeah, because I'm surrounded with great people like Squiggy who make my job fun and amazing, and it makes me want to play more music. But I honestly kind of separate the two. It's kind of work-life balance, if you will. Like I said, if you work at a restaurant too long, you tend to get sick of the food. So I feel like I have to separate my musical process from my work life because, you know, I don't want to say work tends to suck the creativity out of it, but you have to kind of make space for your own creative passions. I feel like over the course of the last few years, I sort of lost that, and I've been making it. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons that I pursued this band, was just the need to fulfill that, because it ultimately, I don't know, you're not entirely whole unless I feel like you can maintain that creative outlet, but it definitely has to be something that you have a separate space for,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great
physically,
answer
or
and
like
great.
physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
and it's funny too, because I don't know, I don't, as much as I try to solicit people at work to play with me, it just, I still feel like there's still kind of a component where I feel like I'm at work. So you know, it's kind of not the same for me
Mm-hmm.
personally. Nobody hate
For
me for
sure.
that.
Great question, Swiggy. Thank you very much. Back to songwriting. Are you someone like, are you writing on bass, or do you have an instrument that you prefer to write on? And do you like to just write full songs, or do you like to collaborate? How does that work?
um, I typically write on an acoustic or on the piano, kind of depending on how I'm feeling. I honestly really don't have a lot of people to collaborate with, so it's kind of, I'm somewhat of a lone wolf in that regard. I'm
Yeah.
glad that working with you guys, we all have such, I think we have some intersection, but also very different styles.
Hmm.
Uh, but in terms of, I mean, how it comes, I just kind of like, I do it in spurts. Like I said, it's very stream of consciousness. I'll write for an hour. Occasionally I'll get some chords out, and then I'll leave it alone and come back. So it's really kind of when the mood strikes. I don't know that I like to create some space for playing, but like I said, songwriting kind of strikes me spur of the moment. I don't know that I have a lyrics book or anything like
Mm.
that, but I'm just kind of, I feel, I feel like there's a time and a place when it happens. It'll happen for maybe a half an hour, and I might leave it alone for like a month or something like that. But inevitably, it'll accumulate into something great. I've realized, even though it takes sometimes years for the song to come to fruition.
Yeah, or the inspiration strikes at random times, like when you're at work or I don't
Yeah,
know, doing something else.
it's usually a
Yeah.
breakup. I've come to
Oh
find.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Let's see. Insta Shaddy 19917. Thank you for joining. Krista Ann Makes, thank you for joining, and Eduardo Castro 7v7. Thank you for joining. Let's see here. Do you have like a style song that or are you like all over the place, or how does that work? Just whatever comes out, or do you have specific things you want to try to accomplish style
Um,
wise?
I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of an emotional. Like I don't necessarily go into it with an agenda. It's kind of just an emotional outlet,
Hmm.
and I think it's just a reflection of the time and the place. I think that's where most of my, like, now looking back at some of the songs that I wrote in my 20s, it's almost like a time like a time capsule of what I was feeling at the time, in the
Hmm.
moment, and I can remember like the exact relationship I was getting out of, or
Hmm.
like the dead end job that I was working. So I think it's just an impulse sort of reaction, or to what's happening in the time and place. But I don't know that I go into it with the intention of, I think I'm going to write a song today. Um,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
no. I'm surprised you don't keep a notebook, or like, do you have anything on your phone? Like, I have like we have a Google Drive, and we just have Word docs all over the place. So when something pops in there, I know I can just throw it up there and I'll get to it later. And then it's kind of like rearranging things or trying to put the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, I'm kind of a cocktail napkin queen. I don't know.
Oh,
I,
okay.
I feel like, I occasionally I'll write in a notebook, but I don't know that I keep a notebook. But it's usually whatever I can find. I've,
Hmm.
put, like, I feel like I have an endless supply of post-it notes, napkins, maybe, I don't know, I was gonna say toilet paper, that's kind of gnarly, but maybe like, but whatever is a writing surface at the time. I've have a vast collection of, you know, keepsakes where I'll write my ideas.
Hmm.
So Like
But
I
all,
said, it's whenever the mood strikes. Sometimes it's, when I'm out and about or what have you.
yeah, all analog though, no digital.
Um,
Like,
in terms of
you,
how I maintain all my ideas,
yeah,
um, I try my best. Everybody at work makes fun of me because I just got this when I was in grad school, everybody was writing on these remarkable tablets. It's like a digital, which I'll bring into practice, but it's like you basically can digitize your notes. And I thought it
yeah,
was hot shit with this thing. And I can't even keep the thing. Can't even keep the thing functional. So I've just resorted back to a notepad. And I do record. I mean, like, of course, like, if I have some ideas, occasionally I'll you know, I'll lay down a few tracks, but I don't know. There's something kind of old soul about, having something tangible. And I think the same could be said about just like reading books or my records and things like that. I guess I am an old soul at heart.
yeah, no doubt. I have to say, I made the jump though, like at in work and personal and whatever music outside of that, like to just deep dive into digital at some point because there were so many pluses and a lot of times I was just working by myself or something like that, and you have to try to maximize your time, and that was the quickest way to get it, from one thing to the other. So I really dove deep into the digital side of things. Do you have any
Well, I was
experience
gonna
with
say
that?
I
Yeah.
feel like my day to day revolves. I mean, going back to Squiggy's question, my day to day runs so heavily on digital and
Mm.
data
Hmm.
and analytics and
Hmm.
software and things like that. That sometimes I just like kind of want to remove myself from that. And like I said, there's something that's a little bit more um, wholesome about having it on paper. But that's not to say that there isn't a hybrid of the two at times when I'm motivated enough.
Sure. Yeah. How about we touch on that a little bit too? Marketing is a big part of, I think, bigger than a lot of bands realize. Obviously, you do it for work as well. I have been on marketing teams for the past 10 or 12 years as well. What do you think? Are there things that, or what advice would you give? How about that to like bands who maybe are struggling to find their audience or connect with people on the marketing
Hmm.
side of things?
um, I think you have to take it seriously, and I don't. No, no, I'm being honest. Like I
No, I
think,
know.
yeah, I don't think people. I think you just kind of have to take a hard look in the mirror of, am I taking the right steps to, I do a lot of workshops around personal branding, right? And it's, is what I'm doing a reflection of how I want to be represented? And
Mhm.
it's one thing to, it's one thing to make a recording, but like, are you taking all the steps? Are you putting out an EPK? Do you have a real social media presence? Do you know how to create content? Are you putting yourself out there to formulate relationships? Do you have a functional website? A lot of these things I think seem really arduous, and yes, sometimes they cost money, but the payback of doing it the right way
Mhm.
is so advantageous. I give my brother's a pretty successful musician, and I always give him a hard time. I'm like, oh, if only and easy for me to say, right? Because I'm not there myself, but I'm like, if only you did this, this could take you to the next
Mhm.
level. If like the quality of your recordings was like this, maybe I'm just lecturing, right? But um, you can tell that the people that are the best at it have a real sense of like there's a strategy behind it at the end of the day. It's not just throwing shit at the wall. And the people who kind of realize that and put it, you got to put in the time too. It's not easy. It takes time. It's hard work. You're basically running your own business, and that that's pretty taxing. And sometimes sometimes I just think not people are lazier than they let on, myself included, at certain times, and like
Mhm.
the time and financial investment will pay off in the end.
I love it. I often say there's no magic bullet when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's the conglomeration of making good habits with a lot of those things and really sticking with it and being consistent for
And
sure.
I remember there was a gal that I used to play with at this chick that used to come into Guitar Center and buy acoustic products from us. And I always just asked her. She was really committed, and she always used to say, "There's no plan B, right? There's like I only have a plan A. There's no plan B." And that always really stuck with me. I think that I really apply that when I'm operating professionally or if I'm pursuing anything. I'm a pretty competitive person, but I've always abided by that, and I think that's a pretty good I mean, that's a you know a great mantra for bands who want to make it. Like, you really can't half-ass it. If you're gonna do it, like, go all in.
Hmm.
You can't just kind of do it on the side. You need to be fully committed.
Hmm. Can you talk about? I know you played in a lot of bands, a lot of different kind of bands too. You had different roles in all those bands. Talk a little bit about chemistry and how to walk into a new situation like that and kind of find your space and get along with everyone. Maybe a little bit of
Hmm.
conflict resolution too, because you know
Yeah.
that's going to come up.
Um, it all comes down to being a good listener. I think preliminarily, I learned the hard way. I would come into these situations. I mean, the same thing pertains to work or friendships or whatever. I would kind of come in. I have a pretty big personality and swing a big one, and that doesn't always sit well in terms of the other personalities in the band. So you kind of just have to reflect and listen to other people's goals. What do they want to achieve? Like, where are you sitting in the mix? And you don't always have to be the loudest voice. So I think that's really key, is just absorb and being receptive to feedback. Conflict resolution. Some people are really averse to feedback, and that can turn into some pretty shitty situations with bands. So I think just setting expectations too at the onset. Like, what does the songwriting process look like?
Hmm.
I'm a bass player and I do backups. Is that what I do, for you as the leader, or is this collaborative? You
Hmm.
kind of have to lay all of that out on the table. And if you don't jive with whatever those objectives are, then the band's not going to work out. So I think those expectation setting and you know, the active listening is really key.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head there. That's great. Let's see, what else? Oh, let's talk a little bit about your activism, and you mentioned like the having a female presence in music. I know that's something you really wanted to touch on, so let's get into that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that I don't want to not totally stand on a soapbox here, but I do think that over the years, I'm just really empowered to encourage more women to play music, but also, not only, on a stage, but also in a professional setting, to find
Mhm.
opportunities to be leaders, and to utilize, music as a creative outlet. Guitar historically has always kind of been a pretty divided space. I think as of lately, things, it's definitely a lot more diversified, and there's a lot more space for diverse voices. But I think one thing I'm really passionate about is giving, especially at a young age, girls the tools to be able to pursue that,
Mhm.
whether that's providing them with an instrument or providing them with lessons, or even showing them. I did a workshop on how to change strings. There's like adults that don't even know how to change their own strings, and I think there's I've done songwriting workshops and things like that, and just giving them that platform for self-expression, no matter what background they come from. I think that that's just really a welcome, a welcome thing for them, and to be able to see, to be able to see girls and other women in my space kind of step into their own is a really rewarding experience as well. Within the context of the music industry, we have a lot of women's groups where we kind of talk shop about, things that we could be doing in the workspace, and like toolkits to introduce to your corporations, but also how do we get more, women and more diverse artists into the space. Those are conversations that we have a lot. And I tend to take an active part in that. So all of those things are pretty common in my day to day.
Very cool. I have to say, especially, I mean, I know this scene better than, I've been here for the past, I don't know, 10, 13 years now, after coming back. But it is much, much more of a diverse place. I see a lot of women in bands. There's some bands that are solely made up of women, but also, mixed in singers, bass players, guitarists, the whole nine. So yeah, it's always a great thing to see.
Yeah, but then at the
That's
same
part of,
time, go ahead. Good.
no, it's all right.
No, I was gonna say, but then at the same time, you know, it's important to elevate that message, but you don't want to ostracize people at the same time. Like you kind of just want, it's an even playing field at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you don't want to call it out as aggressively. I think it's good to convey the message, but at the end of the day, I'm an equal part of the band,
Yeah.
and I think,
Yes.
we treat each other with respect and collaborate no matter what. So that's, regardless of who you are.
So that's the main thing, and that's actually what I was going to say before. Is part of the name, like when we were coming up with the name Bellwether Ritual, it's like this is our ritual. It doesn't, like, to come together, whoever we are at the time, to make music that makes sense for us, who, no matter who is in the band at the time. And we've had some really interesting people come through the band already, which is great. It just shows how powerful music is, and like you can pull all these seemingly random people together, but they all come together for the love of music, which is great.
I love also that we went the old-fashioned way through the through the context of Craigslist. I just feel like I feel like I don't. I just found it funny that all three of us, you know, Brett and Shane and I'm pretty sure, kind of just went through the same process where we just weren't getting the same type of collaboration and opportunities from our circles, and we were like, fuck it,
Hmm.
like I guess I'm gonna go back on Craigslist again, like, which I never thought I'd do, but
Yeah.
you never know. So
I that is something like, there's always debates that come up about this, because every band works differently, and like you said, sometimes it's like this person, it's like this person's vision, and the rest are there to support
hmm
and all that kind of stuff. For me, I've had situations like that in the past. I've been on both sides, and like when you're looking to have something try to, like, get traction and be long term, you have to have those good interrelationships with people and know how to get along and work with them, and obviously have the chemistry. And part of that is making sure that everyone feels like they're heard and are contributing to that
yeah,
as well. Because I think that's something for me, especially if I feel like I'm not getting that opportunity in a work environment, a band, a sports team, whatever. I'm probably gonna do the same thing and like hit up Craigslist and see what else is out
yeah,
there.
for sure.
Yeah,
I may or may not have bought an exercise bike too, but that's beside the point.
off of
Yeah,
Craigslist.
it's
Yeah,
such a multitude of opportunities on there. So
yeah. I've been falling down the Facebook Marketplace rabbit hole
yeah,
lately. It's been a mess. Yeah.
especially
Uh,
for gear. I don't know.
oh my
I've been getting
God.
into a lot of
Yeah,
trouble buying gear lately.
yeah.
When I was in Germany, I definitely
Oh,
was enticed a little too much, and then I looked at my bank account and I was like, oh shit.
yeah. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? You had a great opportunity, and it sounds like I had a great time too.
Yeah, definitely. I was able to go. I think really like one of the peaks of that trip was there was a guitar event in outside of Frankfurt. I think like an hour outside of Frankfurt. Um, Basically a trade show, but also for consumers as well. And it really gave me some insight into what the European market looks like. Very different from us. A lot of small builders, a lot of boutique
Mm,
builders. They're very in. Maybe we need to be touring over there because they're very invested in the metal scene over there.
I'm
Um,
in.
yeah, just I mean, a lot of the people that we're representing, it's like Mayonnaise, Sandberg, Warwick, Ibanez,
That's right. Yeah.
a lot of metal oriented brands. So you can see that there's definitely a passion there. But I just thought it was really cool. All of these like smaller builders. It was very much almost like a DIY show, if you will. And the cool thing about it versus say, I don't know, going to a NAMM show or, it's kind of a cacophony of madness when you go to a trade show here in the States, but there's a general respect, I think, for like the play, the performance situations, at events in Europe, and it was like very quiet. It was kind of eerie because nobody was really, people were being respectful and like selectively playing guitars. So I thought that kind of decorum was really interesting.
Hmm.
And the pedal culture is wild over there. I think that's what like officially pushed me over the edge in terms of
Oh, really?
satiating my needs with pedals lately. I've been on this quest for an octave pedal
Oh,
for a
okay.
while and like landed on this Electro Harmonics Pog that I found there. Bought a couple, bought a Klon clone while I was out
Oh,
there. So yeah, it was a fun experience for sure.
very cool. Octave pedal. Do you like to go up or down?
I mean, kind of just depends on the situation. We have a lot of up in our group, a lot, so I feel like that, like ultimately, like, down would be best for what we need. But just love to experiment with modulation, and if the pedal has a lot of versatility and you can really dial it in, I like flexibility. So
Yeah.
the opportunity to kind of do both is and really kind of phone in just the texture of the octaves is important to me. Like the more dials, the better.
Yeah. I'm working on like a freeze. I only use right now I just have one digital modeler, and I've been trying to build like chains, and I'm
Yeah,
working on like a freeze effect, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I might pick your brain on that one and just try to get into some more like ambience, like in between songs, stretch out stuff. Maybe we'll get to that freak out jam too at some point.
yeah.
But yeah.
No, that'll happen eventually. Although I think we're
Hmm.
gonna go toe to toe. This is where I'm very much an analog effects person. So
I
I've
know.
been
I wanted
I've
to
been
talk
looking
about
at
that.
all
Yeah.
y'all's racks and like digital modelers, and I'm like, maybe
Yeah.
I'll get on board eventually. But I'm very much like a true bypass hand wired analog pedal gal. So
I
changed
yeah.
my mind.
No, and likewise, I think for me at least, it came from necessity more than anything. Like it was like, all right, I could pay $650 or whatever it was and get this thing that does a lot of things, maybe not as well or
Yeah.
but pretty darn close. It just that kind of really pushed me over the edge. And then that's the way we record too or rehearse at times. It just made a lot of sense. So
Yeah,
that's
definitely. Well,
that's
and
why I
there's
went.
definitely some floorboards and stuff out there. These modelers that are, um, I know that a friend of mine just put out this quad cortex floorboard. I don't know if you're familiar with it, and
Hell yeah.
blows me away.
Yeah.
So there's so much that you can do with it.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe you guys can convert me. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. I just wanted a quick shout out Talbot Walter. Thank you for joining. Giap 1954. Thank you for joining. Patrick. Thank you for joining. Blair Musico. Thank you for joining. Alternative Schwimmer. Thank you for joining. Erica. Oh my God. You just want to? I don't know. We're at about an hour. We can keep going if you want.
It's up to you.
Mouth to
I
Mouth
have,
Pod.
what? Hey, do you know what I brought though?
Ah,
Like.
forgot. So when you the night of a long jam and you need to relax and have a snack, what do you reach for?
Oh man. I mean, I'm a chicken wing connoisseur.
Oh,
I mean,
right.
I don't know if I can reach for it. I will actively go to great lengths and cross state borders for chicken wings. So, and everybody, I
Yeah.
actually have my own. I don't even know if I want to. I don't even know if I want to like tout my chicken wing handle, but I have like I have an
Please do.
Instagram where I travel around and rate chicken wings. So maybe at another time. But yeah,
Uh,
that's definitely my go-to, my
we'll
vice.
definitely have to work at that into some content for sure.
Yeah.
That's
Do
something
we
new.
have anything coming up
Guitar.
in late December? I don't know if we have
Uh,
anything.
n- No, so as of right now, Guitar Dork asked any late December Bellwether shows. Right now, we have October 28th and November 11th, both in Bethlehem, PA. And then we're planning on writing and recording the rest of the year and then starting to book for early 2024 moving forward. Who knows, something may come up, but that's the plan right now. So if you do have a place that you would like us to play or suggestions, please let us know or drop them in the comment section. But thank you for asking. Let's see. I think we're just at about an hour, so I think that's a good place to stop. Is there anything else you would like to touch base on or bring up or let people know what you're up to, or like the chicken wing
No, I
candle?
don't know if I want to tout my chicken wing channel, but I'm just stoked that so many people came and
Yes, thank you.
tuned in. That was really exciting to see. Come out and see us when you're in the valley, or maybe we'll come to see you. It sounds like we're planning a European tour at this point, so
Yeah, let's
we'll,
go.
we'll see. But that's it. I'm super pumped too. I feel like in my heart of hearts, I was like really looking to be playing, in a band like this. So it's like couldn't be happier with the situation. So I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to doing some collabing and
we're
definitely playing out.
we're excited to have you. It was a very interesting process to go through this whole thing to get to this point,
Y'all
and yeah, I think it's going to be
stressed
great.
me out. I was like, at one point, I was like, I definitely threw in the
Oh,
towel.
did you?
Yeah.
What was the breaking point?
I don't know. Time, I guess. I don't know. The mental mind
Uh,
games. I
no,
was like, they don't like
no,
me. But
it was a timing thing.
yeah.
We just,
Yeah, you guys
yeah,
had a
we
lot of
had
shows
and had
at the time, too.
someone bail and just was like, yeah, we had to figure all that out. So, nope, we weren't playing mind games. All right, Hilary, Bellwether Ritual bass player, thank you so much for doing this. This was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll throw this up on the replay and throw it on YouTube and all that good stuff. And yeah, until next week, that will be it. I don't, Rangel, do you know who's up next week? Because I can't keep all this stuff straight. But yeah, otherwise, October 28th, we'll be playing at in Bethlehem at the Flying V, and on November 11th at the Bethlehem Area Public Library. I mean, when's the next time we're gonna be able to say play the show at a library?
I'm
That's pretty
excited
cool.
about the poutine. I don't know about you,
Oh, all right, yeah, I'm
but
excited about
yeah,
Halloween
well,
too. So we'll
that
see.
too. Yeah, lots coming up.
All right, thank you so much, Hillary, and thank you everyone. You're right. Thank you for everyone for jumping in and joining. That was a whole lot of fun. So until next week, we will see you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye bye.
See